I got the flavor, I got the flow. Captain D's, I'm about to show. I'm the one, the king of the game, spitting fire, igniting the flame. I'm unstoppable.
What's up everybody, Captain D's here, and today we're going to be showing you a snapshot of the meta. This is the exact breakdown, courtesy of Eggman, of the most recent OP-07 regional in the Netherlands. It's the Utrecht, I don't think I'm saying that properly, regional that just happened, offline regional. Now a lot of this is actually kind of surprising to me. Normally what we've seen a lot of is Law, the red-purple Law, just dominating every single aspect of all the regionals. It's the most played, it's the most played leader in top 16 and top 8, but that's not what we're seeing in this time. If you look over at the total breakdown of all leaders, Law is in second place by almost 40 people. It's just about tied with Enel actually, which is actually very surprising. Lucci is becoming more and more popular in the entire meta and becoming more of, I don't know if necessarily the deck to beat, but it's becoming a very consistent powerhouse deck that you're gonna have to contend with no matter what. And if we bring it over to the top 16 leaders, Lucci actually has 7 of the top 16, almost half of all the top 16 leaders are Rob Lucci. Now you can say that that's possibly because there's 40 more people playing Lucci, maybe it's the matches that they played, but even then there's only 2 Law players, well, 2 red-purple Law players. There is 1 red-green Law player who actually ended up taking first place, but we'll come back to that one. Now if we look over at the top 16 leaders, there's a big difference between Lucci and the rest of them. Lucci has 7 decks representing itself, whereas the next best is Law and Bonney, both representing with 2 decks each. And then going down to the 1 each is the red-green Law, Enel, Dofi, Nami, and then the black-yellow Luffy. Now, why is this important? Now, this is showing that Lucci is now topping over Law and Bonney, possibly putting itself over at the number 1 spot. But although this is the real part that defines the meta right now, and I'm gonna show it to you guys right here. Looking at the top 16 leaders, swing it over to the top 4 and top 8. Top 4, there is 0 Rob Lucci's. None of them top 4. 1 Enel, 1 red-purple Law, 1 red-green Law, and 1 Bonney. And then the top 8, 5 through 8, is predominantly Rob Lucci. 3 out of the 4 decks are Rob Lucci. And then obviously the last 8, there's a few more Rob Lucci's filling in the tracks. But what is that to say? Maybe Rob Lucci isn't the best deck, which we don't really think it is. We think it's probably top 2, maybe 3. It's usually Lucci, Law, and black-yellow Luffy. But at this tournament specifically, Rob Lucci has performed very well, getting into the top 16 with a large margin of the decks, but still falling short, not being able to get to the top 4. And the top 4 is very diverse. As I mentioned before, it's 2 different Law decks, 1 red-green, 1 red-purple, an Enel deck, and a Bonney deck. Very versatile. It's a very diverse top 4, honestly. So now let's just jump into a couple of the lists and show, maybe they had a couple tech cards, maybe they played it very well. We can't really see their matchups that they played, but with this we'll be able to see what kind of decks we should be looking forward to seeing in the upcoming regionals later this season. Starting off, we're going to look at the first place winner, the Law deck. So it looks fairly standard to the Law decks of old. Runs the Namis, runs the Dedans, Zoros, classic. Not as many Makinos as I would normally like to see. Otama, sure. Just a lot of generic cheap stuff that you can play, fill up the board, and just to get to the big stuff. The addition of Cavendish and Bonney Supernovas, huge for the restand Law. They were decks earlier in the set, and I believe last set before these 2 cards came out that were dropping this card, which I didn't think was a good choice, honestly. I think this card is very, very good, very strong. It's probably one of the main end game focal points of this deck is to put out a bunch of your blockers, your you know, decent sized bodies, your 5/6s, and then just put a bunch of Dawn on it, and then swing away with it. The couple key cards that I like to see in here are the Robin, very good against Rebecca specifically, and also the Bon Clay. This destroys Bonclay for Law when they play it. And then having one Zoro that you can search for with your Nami is very nice. This Zoro is very good against Enel and a lot of those yellow decks, especially also Black Yellow Luffy. This should do pretty well into. So I can see why this deck did very well. Red Green Law, I believe, is one of the most skill heavy decks. You need to plan out everything very meticulously, and it's very, very tough to do it perfectly. I used to play a little bit of Red Green Law back in set 3 when Katakuri and that whole stuff was kind of coming out the woodworks. It is a very tough deck to play. You get punished very heavily for even the slightest misplays. But overall, I like the list. I'm going to be trying it out myself, seeing how the matchups feel. But I do want to test this deck primarily against Lucci. What I had heard is that this person didn't face many Luccis. I think they played one, and it was their only loss in Swiss. But it is still worth a test. I feel like Lucci would have a very easy time beating this deck. It's hard to get your Law ability off when your entire board gets cleared every single turn. But looking forward to trying that one out. Next, we're going to take a look at the Bonney. Now, this Bonney is a little bit different from what I prefer. I usually don't like the Baby 5 and the Bonney searchers. I feel like it's very counterintuitive. I know there are other decks that do this kind of thing. My old deck that I used to run was also Rosinante. I loved playing Rosinante. That also ran the Bonney Baby 5 combo. I didn't mind it too much in that deck, mostly because I could use my face as a blocker. Can't really do that with Bonney, although you do get to protect your board a little easier with their leader ability. It seems like it's just finding the right cards for the matchup. This deck only runs one Zoro, which isn't even searchable, which is a little questionable in my opinion. But having 3 Dofis, having 3 kids, you have a lot of top end, 4 Hody as well. You're gonna find the ability basically to lock down your opponent or wall up at any given moment. You just have to get to 10 Dawn, which is very easy to do with Bonney. You're gonna live a while, it's gonna be a grindy game, and you just want to win the grind. So I understand playing obviously multiple of these 3. I thought you'd play more Zoro, but I guess that's why this Bonney player is really good. They found the right secret sauce. And I know this card is actually very good against Law. Once they have cards rested, you get to rest their cards and remove a lot of their pressure that they're trying to hit you with. So this is a very strong card against that. Next, I want to take a look at this Dofi list. A lot of people have been saying that Dofi is not very competitive, which I don't agree with. I think it's a very competitive deck. Running 4 of a pudding I think is a little bit too much. I think 3 should suffice, but still a very good card. It auto wins in the Black Yellow Luffy matchup and the Enel matchup, because they get to 8-10 cards and then you just boom, pop it right back down to 5, and they lose all of their advantage. I like the 1 of Gecko. It's just an extra 4 drop, and it's another 4/6 that you can hit off your ability. It's probably gonna live a while. It's a good card. 3 Kaidos, sure. 2 Boas, sure. I like the 1 Perfume Femor. I also really enjoy that card. Everything in here is a 7 Warlords essentially, minus like Kaido and Pudding. But besides that, all of your heavy hitters, your leader, all your big cards are going to be 7 Warlords. You're going to want to be able to bypass the opponent's blockers. Like I said, most likely Rob Lucci or Black Yellow Luffy with all their blockers. And in some cases, Red Purple Law. The deck also runs 3 Gravity Blades, which I would think you would need 4. Maybe not, but I would think 4 is a necessity with Law. 3 Red Rock seems fine. And the rest of the list seems very straightforward, seems very strong. I'm surprised we don't see more Dofis, honestly. Next we have Enel. And this Enel took 4th place and is kind of a unique list. I'm surprised to say this actually. You don't normally see a lot of decks running Sabo and Luffy. It's usually one or the other. But this one is very against being starved, which some decks will do to Enel, and Enel does to other decks as well. Obviously 4 Kadatsu, 4 Frankie, those are fine. Flampe, Onami with the Shirahoshi, usually people pick one or the other. I'm surprised to see both. I'm more used to seeing the Onamis being played over the Shirahoshis, and I think that's the smarter choice. I think Onami's the better card. The trigger on it's extremely good, but Shirahoshi, I guess, has the ability to be protected against Lucci, whereas Onami is better against Law. So this worked in their favor since there were so many Luccis running amok. But obviously 12 2Ks, you got a lot. And then gets to your top end where you get 4 Ace, obviously, 4 Yamato, 4 Katakuri. Surprisingly, 3 Enels. A lot of these lists are running Big Mom over Enel because of Luffy. But I am also in the camp that I think Enel is better than Big Mom. You get the rush on it, you can get it, you can clear a character with it. They don't always choose the option that you want them to choose when it comes to Big Mom. And this is just a lot stickier on board. Also 4 Raigo I thought was a little bit too much. I thought 3 was comfortable, but 4 seems fine. 3 of the event, that's fine. One card that I am surprised to not see in here is the 5-drop Shirahoshi, especially over the 2-drop Shirahoshi. The 5-drop just gives you extra cards. It's a great target for Katakuri to put something back into your life. It's cycle, so it gets rid of the dead cards. It's a very, very good trigger. And I'm really surprised that we don't see more of that in play. But this list took 4th and it did very well. So maybe Shirahoshi is on its way out and the new Shirahoshi, the new 2-drop, is on its way in. Who knows? And lastly, we have a Lucci list. Lucci was the most represented leader, and most of the lists look relatively the same. This is the one that I found was the best, or at least performed the best. It took 5th place, but I did like a lot of these cards. The only aspects I didn't really enjoy too much of this is only running 2 Sabos. I think Sabo should be at 3 or 4. It's a very strong card, gets you everything you want in trash, while actually being draw rather than searching with Spandom that automatically puts everything in trash. This way you can get to your Geckos, your Ishos, and your Sabos without having to worry, including your stage if you don't open with it. I feel like Sabo is very needed, but I guess 2 of was sufficient. I guess splitting it with Borsalino was the alternative. I didn't run Borsalino in mine, which is, I thought, an okay decision, but maybe Borsalino and Rebecca and Sabo are all kind of needed. This one runs 2 Brook. I think Brook is very, very strong. It's one of the best cards against Red Purple Law. So I feel like that should be at least minimum 2 in any black deck right now. And then you also have this Brook, which is also very, very good. It's good in so many different matchups. It's really good into Red Purple Law. You can subtract anything by 1 with your leader ability. So all of Law's characters 5 or less, which is every character they play, unless it's a variant that runs the Ace, which they shouldn't. Then this card can just take that card, place it right in the trash. Or if you're up against a Rob Lucci, you can just get rid of a couple of cards that they may need. If they have their Lucci, their Rebecca, whatever combo cards you think that they're going to hit, their Spandine, you can just put it right to the bottom of their deck. They're never going to see that card again. So there you have it, guys. This was the Netherlands offline regional for OP-07. We see a lot of Lucci's coming out the woodworks. Law is maybe taking a back seat. People are realizing that Law, as good as it is, does get bricked up a lot. It does, need to hit the right cards at the right times for it to be as powerful. Maybe Bandai will see this and start to think maybe Law doesn't need to get banned. Maybe other cards inside of Law will get banned, starting for OP-08. Maybe they're gonna unban a couple leaders like Sakazuki. Who knows? But until then, this has been your meta snapshot. I'll catch you guys next time.
I got the flavor, I got the flow. Captain D's, I'm about to show. I'm the one that